Hi everyone, Heather here with PersephoneReturns.com, and I decided to do another live video here on Facebook. I haven't really been keeping up with my YouTube videos. That might be a project for after the holiday season and after the Mercury retrograde to restart. But in the meantime, I figured I can just, hop on here and do a few live videos here and there to let you guys know what's going on in terms of the astrology. And so this week and today especially, we have a lot of really strong astrology for the water signs in particular. So this is a big week for the water signs. So if you have your sun, moon, rising, or any, personal planets in Scorpio especially, but also in Cancer and in Pisces, this is going to be a big, really powerful week for you, and in mostly a positive way. But today we have Jupiter and Venus in an exact conjunction in the skies and in the charts, right? Because it's conjunct by degree, and it's also, I think it's called parallel when it's conjunct by declination. So in the sky, if you were able to wake up early this morning and you had clear skies, you would have seen Jupiter and Venus in conjunction together, because Venus is the morning star right now. So you would have seen that in the morning at sunrise, and would have been a very beautiful sight to see. And also it's very powerful in terms of the astrological influence, especially because it's in conjunction in the skies, not just by degree. So Jupiter and Venus are both the two benefic planets, right? The great benefics, or the Jupiter is a great benefic, and Venus is the other benefic planet in traditional astrology. And so, this can bring a lot of good fortune, a lot of gifts, but really, when it comes to Jupiter and Venus in the charts, I've noticed through working with, hundreds of clients all over the world, that it's not always this beautiful, great, easy energy that people think that it's going to be. I had a friend that told me that Ernst Wilhelm, he is a Vedic astrologer. He does Gemini astrology. He teaches that Venus and Jupiter actually don't do well together in the charts, and that has been my experience as well. He's not one of my teachers, but maybe he should be, because I've seen that happen in the charts. It can be very beautiful, very expansive. It's a very optimistic sort of energy, and it brings a lot of hope. It brings, ease in certain areas of our life. But, I even had one of my clients comment that, they had high hopes for this conjunction between Jupiter and Venus in Scorpio, and, nothing has really happened, right? And I had sort of a similar experience with that, because when Jupiter and the Sun came into conjunction just a couple of weeks ago, it was crazy. I was like just having all sorts of new developments happening all at once, and it was just a chaotic but positive experience, right? So I was like, well, what's going to happen when Venus and Jupiter come into conjunction? And really, it's been pretty mellow, right? And so what Venus and Jupiter can do in general when they're together, they can bring benefits, they can bring grace and ease, they can bring good fortune through relationships, right? Because Venus is relationships. It can bring money, it can bring resources, but it could also cause you to overspend and overdo things when it comes to your finances and your resources. And in Scorpio, it can cause you to become overly obsessive in terms of your partnerships. It can be overindulging in any sort of pleasures, right? Because Venus is pleasure, it's harmony, it's things that are beautiful, it's things that we enjoy. And with Jupiter there, it can cause us to become overindulgent, to become lazy, right? Because it's a very lazy, very flowy, very pleasurable energy, right? And with also having Mercury and Neptune in square coming into this Monday, it's a very sort of lazy, sleepy, floaty sort of energy to start our work week with. So it's not this like intense, like I got to get things done. It's not like all these crazy new developments are happening. It's kind of foggy. It's kind of mellow. It's kind of chill, right? Because Neptune is an energy that dissolves whatever it touches. So it's dissolving our ability to think things through very clearly. It's dissolving our analytical mind. It's causing us to be a little confused. We might not be making the best of decisions today, and we might be more easily deceived, right? Because Mercury square Neptune is lies. It's deception. So be aware and be cognizant of that, because between the Jupiter-Venus conjunction and this Mercury square to Neptune, we're going to be seeing what we want to see, right? Because Jupiter is expansive, it's optimistic, it's hopeful, right? It's instilling us with this sense of hope, this sense of optimism, especially when it comes to our relationships and our finances. And whatever Scorpio represents in our lives and our charts too, we're going to feel more hopeful, more optimistic, more balanced, but also a little lazy, right? Because we're going to feel a little overindulgent. We're going to want to just chill and kick back and let things happen. And that's okay, because things can just sort of flow a little bit more easily today in those areas. But it can also, accentuate and highlight power struggles in relationships, because when we look at Scorpio, we're looking at sex, power, things that are intense, topics that are taboo. It's emotional intensity, right? So looking at all those types of themes today. So if there are power struggles that come up today, although it can be, you know, difficult to have to go in and deal with those types of things, if you do engage with it, you can work through it a lot more easily throughout the day today and also into tomorrow, right? This isn't just a one-day transit. When a transit hits, it doesn't just come exact for that day. That energy lasts for like a week or so. With this one, I would say more like, you know, 3 days before, 3 days after. So roughly 1 week, this is going to be the transit. That's going to be sort of the most intense this week. So this can be a really positive, really beneficial energy though, especially for the water signs, because it's going to be in trine with your sun, moon, rising, or in trine with your personal planets. If you're a Scorpio, you might be feeling a little more mellow, a little bit more low key. Venus will also be coming into trine with Neptune later on this week, and that's going to bring in more compassionate, loving, connected, romantic, fantastical energy, especially in your relationships, and especially when it comes to financial situations. You might have creative solutions to old problems. It might make you feel more psychic and more aware and more in tune with your partners and with the people that you encounter in your interactions. And again, this is not surface level interactions. That's not going to be the case, especially today with Mercury squared Neptune and with, you know, Venus and Jupiter in conjunction in Scorpio. We're not looking at what's above the surface. This is not a good day for small talk. People are not going to be wanting to deal with that. It's going to be more going deeper, connecting on a deeper, more intense, more passionate level with everybody that we come into contact with throughout the day today and, you know, into tomorrow and all throughout this week. Really, this is the energy. So this is a very deeply compassionate, deeply connected energy. But again, all of this energy that's coming up right now can make us feel lazy, right? It's like we have all this work to do. It's the work week. You know, we're expecting all these really great things to come about, but we don't necessarily want to do the work, right? We want to just kick back, we want to float around because of all this water energy. And Venus, Neptune, and Jupiter all involved. These are all planets that are associated with laziness, with indulgence, with indulging in pleasure, with you know, wanting to be in balance and harmony and flow and to focus on what's beautiful and what feels good, right? So this is a good week to focus on that. It's a good week to, you know, take a break, take some time out. Don't push yourself too hard and don't expect too much of yourself, because this energy really supports rest and relaxation and also imagination and fantasy and escapism, you know, is actually supported, and we can do it without going too far with Venus in trine with Neptune, and especially escapism with partnership or through partnership. You know, also this is a deeply creative week. So if you are in any sort of creative field, if you are someone that engages in creative pursuits, especially for aesthetic value, you know, if you're an artist, a musician, a painter, you know, if you're an actor or actress, something along those lines, this is supported during this week. So this is a really prolific time for creativity. So it's a really beautiful energy, again, especially for the water signs. People who have a lot of mutable energy might be feeling a little frazzled, a little confused, a little disoriented because of the Mercury square Neptune today. So if you have your sun, moon, and rising in Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Gemini, this is going to be not the best time, again, to make decisions. If you're trying to get all of your ducks in a row prior to the Mercury retrograde, I would have suggested, obviously, doing that, you know, as early as possible, and I have suggested that in my video on Astrology's YouTube channel, but today is not the day to do that, right? We should have done that over the weekend. We can do that, you know, later on this week, even though Mercury is in shadow, but today is not the day to really be focusing on the details. It's not a day to be focusing on organizing things and getting things together and planning things. So if you're trying to make your travel arrangements prior to the Mercury retrograde for the holiday season, don't do it today. There might be some mishaps. You might be confused, miscommunications. It's almost like a Mercury retrograde energy, except it's more foggy and more confusing. And it's like we have this brain fog going on, or this veil that we're seeing things through, so we can't quite see everything as clearly as we would want to. And so, yeah, that's a lot of the energy this week. We'll get more clarity, and we'll be able to make decisions more decisively and take action on our decisions a little bit more so as we come into Friday, because Mercury will be sextiling Mars, right? So that's going to be a really good energy for making decisions, for our minds being sharp and quick and much more active, and for us to be able to take action on our decisions much more easily. And again, that'll be really good, you know, especially if you're in a mutable sign. So again, sun, moon, and rising in Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, or Sagittarius. Don't make decisions today. If you have important communications or contracts that need to be made today, I would put them off if you can until Friday, because that's going to be a much more decisive, much more discerning energy. And so that's how we're kind of flowing through the week this week. Also, things are going to be winding down, right? So this is a very internalized, very intuitive, again, a good time for rest and relaxation and replenishment. But we're going to have a new moon in Scorpio on Saturday, right? So this is really deep, really going inward. People are probably not going to feel like going out quite as much because Scorpio is very internalized, right? It keeps to itself. It likes to, hide away. And so, this new moon in Scorpio is going to be a time to go deep inward and to really deal with the stuff that's hidden below the surface. So this is going to be an interesting energy, and we'll talk more about that later in the week. I'll probably come back on here. But with this new moon in Scorpio, it's also a rebellious energy because the only aspect it's making is an inconjunct to Uranus. And so this is going to initiate rebelliousness. It's going to be a new moon energy of change, but maybe going too hard, too fast in terms of the change, maybe being rebellious for rebellious sake, just to shake things up and just to make the energy interesting, right? Just to create a little bit of chaos. And so it might not always be beneficial change, especially as we come into, this weekend and into the new lunar cycle. So just be aware. Don't act too impulsively. Don't change everything all at once, and make sure that you're thinking things through, and don't change things on the day of the new moon. Obviously, that's never a good time to initiate new action. That's when you go inward and sort of reflect and get yourself ready for the lunar month ahead, right? The couple days after that new moon are going to be really intense and really chaotic, and there's a lot of intense energy coming into the weekend and coming into next week. So just be aware of that as well. We'll get into that. I'll come back on here and do another video about that. But in general, this week, as we lead up to the new moon, it's a good time to rest because things are going to get a little crazy, especially as we come into Sunday and Saturday as well. So it's a good time to rest, a good time to take a break, a good time to kick back, and don't push yourself too hard because you're going to be pushing really hard as we come into, this new lunar cycle and as we come into next week. And the energy supports rest. It supports creativity. It supports, mystical pursuits like mysticism, meditation, dreams, fantasy, all those things that we discussed. So overall, it's a good week to relax if you can. And if you're having any sort of experience today with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, please let me know what's going on for you, because a lot of astrologers, especially Western astrologers, say that this is like the best thing that ever happens in the skies. And traditional and Vedic astrology tends to sometimes disagree with that. And I also disagree with that. And not to say it's going to bring anything bad. It's just probably not as crazy as some people might think that it might be in terms of the benefits that it'll bring. So anyway, I hope you all have a really wonderful week. Check back on Astrolada's channel later this week. I'm going to be doing a short video on inconjunct aspects and the talents and the gifts and the benefits that can be brought out through these aspects. And I'm also doing a webinar on inconjunct aspects through astrolada.com. It's only $29 now through November 25th, and you can watch it live in just 2 weeks. And the link for that is in the description of this video as well. So I hope you all have a really wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.